We haven't seen you in a while, John.
So you're working on now?
I'm just here in support role, so.
So we can introduce John Kim, and yeah, so this is the item that got rescheduled. So Lindy is the associate engineer, John's the senior engineer with the transportation board.
Welcome.
Thank you. Is this on? Yes.
It's on.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Lindy Pham. I'm an associate engineer in the traffic and mobility divisions, and I have here with me is John Kim. He's one of the senior engineer that's going to be assisting me with this presentation on the 2-hour parking restriction on Arbuckle Place. So to give you a little background, the request came from one of the business owners located at 277 Jefferson Street, which is located at the southwest corner of Jefferson Street and Arbuckle Place. Sorry. The building, next to the building, it has an on-site paved parking lot. It accommodates 21 standard parking spaces and 2 disabled parking spaces. So on a typical day, these spaces are utilized by its patrons, and it would overflow to the streets. Because it's adjacent to residential homes, the street parking is unavailable because it's used by residents for long-term parking. So the request has asked us to look into it. So Arbuckle Place is a public street located in the northwest quadrant of the city, as indicated by the red arrow to the far top left of the map. And here is a close-up aerial view of the locations. Arbuckle Place is running east-west, intersecting Madison Street to the west and Jefferson Street to the east. And the requester is located in the white square building that's at the corner of Arbuckle Place and Jefferson. And to the west of it, you can see the paved parking lot. And here is a street view of Arbuckle Place. It's looking east towards Jefferson Street. As you can see, the north side of Arbuckle Place is fronting residential homes, and it has not been improved. And on the south side of Arbuckle Place, it's fronting the commercial building, and it's been improved with curb gutter, sidewalk, and street lights. So based on the complaints that we received and to help facilitate turnovers, and as allowed by the Carlsbad Municipal Code, Section 10.40, which states, when authorized signs are in place, no person shall stop, stand, or park any vehicles within a business district for a period of time longer than 2 hours. So staff recommends implementing a 2-hour parking restrictions on the south side of Arbuckle Place. This recommendations affects approximately 160 feet of the curb, which is equivalent to 8 parking spaces. And to further reduce the impact on residents, we recommend the parking restriction to be implemented from the hours of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which still allows the resident to utilize the street parking after the core business hours. So parking restriction in business area are very common throughout the cities, and some of the one we currently have is on Carlsbad Boulevard between Grand Avenue and Carlsbad Village Drive. Beach Avenue from State Street to Roosevelt Street, and Roosevelt Street to Oak Avenue to Carlsbad Village Drive. And these are just to name a few. So staff is recommending a similar restriction, and that is to establish a 2-hour parking time limit on south side of Arbuckle Place between Madison Street and Jefferson Street from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So this concludes our presentation, and we'll open up to any question you may have.
Questions?
Thank you for the presentation. For the parking, is there parking on North Arbuckle?
There is, they're usually utilized by residentials,
Okay.
and they're parked where the dirt path is showing in that image, but there's no restriction currently.
Okay. Thanks.
I noted that look like there's somewhere between 4 and 6 different businesses in that building. Did just one of them ask for it? And I'm new here, so I don't know the standard protocol, but do you ask the other businesses and the residents for their input on this? Or is this just one business owner says it and you can make the change?
So we got complaints from just one business owner. Usually we just bring it up to the city, bring it up to the commissioners and see what your opinions are.
Typically, if the parking affected is along a property frontage, then that party would be notified. Since the parking on the north side of Arbuckle was not being affected, those residents weren't specifically notified.
It's like it's very, I don't want to use a bad term, but like a bizarre area where you've got 3 houses mixed in with a whole bunch of businesses and there's a whole bunch of parking lots. It's rather confusing. I guess my one concern is that if that parking lot fills up like with employees and then the customers come and have to park on the street, and then one of the employees from another company goes to lunch and comes back and the parking lot is full and they don't have a place to park, and it's probably an odd concern, but it's a very odd area, and it's strange to me that one business owner, not that they're not correct, but can come in and change the parking unilaterally. So it'd be nice if maybe the other businesses in the area and the residents were surveyed to see if they agree with it. Like maybe all the businesses in that building are having the same problem.
The 2-hour parking would be beneficial to, at least from our staff's standpoint, all the patrons, businesses within that building.
Commissioner Fong?
Bill?
So is the subject complainer part of the gray building?
Yes.
And is that business the only business in that building?
No, there are other
There are
businesses.
others as well. And it's not the building owner who's making the complaint?
No, it's not. Business owner.
Have you ever been there when you went through this process and found that the existing parking lot was full?
Yes, the time we went, the parking lot was full.
And I visited as well. It wasn't completely full, but it was impacted enough where I could see that it could very well be full.
I think it was full on Google Maps.
Yes.
Yeah. I've just been there a couple of times, but both the times I've been there, it's just been basically just around half of the spaces in the parking lot are full. The other thing I noted was that the doors to that building face the parking lot and Jefferson Street, not the side street. So I'm wondering why they want to preserve those for the customers, because the customers are going to have to walk around through the parking lot to get in, or out on Jefferson Street to get in. Are they trying to preserve those for their employees or for their customers?
They did not specifically request which street they wanted additional parking on. That was based on our evaluation. Because Jefferson Street is a little bit more complicated in terms of the adjacent properties, we felt that restricting one side of Arbuckle would be simpler.
Okay, so does that, do I understand you correctly to say they were just complaining about the general parking condition of Carlsbad locally to that building and not?
No, for their specific building.
No, but did they say if you could restrict parking for a couple hours or 1 or 2 hours on Arbuckle, that is what we want? They didn't say that. They just said, we need more parking. What can you do about it?
Essentially, yes, that their lot was not sufficient for their customers and that they were requesting additional on-street parking.
So,
Commissioner Hunter?
Do you know the hours of the businesses there?
From the requester, the business hours from 9 to 5.
Do you know what kind of business it is?
It's a hearing aid. It's for hearing aid.
Do you know what kind of businesses the other businesses are in there?
They have orthopedic, a CPA, doctors and attorneys.
So they're service offices.
Medical service.
Right, so you'll have patients and stuff coming and going.
Oh, okay.
Should we encourage them to have their employees commute to work by alternative modes? To leave the parking lot open for the customers? Well,
Yeah, like e-bikes or?
the goal of our city is to have 30% of employees at existing businesses be
We can put that
using
in the
alternative
work
modes.
plan, and we'll work on that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, somebody's got to start thinking about that,
Right.
you know, other than as it officially moves through. I mean, that's a great point.
We could start making it a prerequisite to making a request that you poll your employees and see how they're getting to work.
So I don't have Vice Chair Johnson to make motions for me. I don't know, I'm lost. I need somebody to help me.
I actually have one more question
Yes.
on that. Will there be, on that 2-hour lot, will there be allocation for disabled vehicles? Since it's a medical office or a audiology or things like that?
Making one of them a handicap
Yes,
spot?
exactly.
The on-street parking would remain, so there is currently no disabled parking spaces assigned on that on-street parking. There are disabled parking spaces available in the paved parking lot, and we haven't received any specific concerns that additional disabled parking is necessary.
Was there any complaints on that from the?
No, there have not been.
I mean, because the other businesses are service businesses, I personally think it would benefit everybody. If the other one were just employee-based 9 to 5, I can understand why have the other businesses surveyed in the first place, right? But I do think because of the other ones are service providers that it could benefit them. And it's also not the main Jefferson Street.
With that, go ahead, Pete.
Before we make a motion, I'd like to comment that parking is kind of a sacred cow in some places. And when I was in Oceanside, and on the Transportation Commission, we had some of our biggest wars between the public over parking and the entitlement of using a public space to park a private vehicle. And so the state struggled with that and still does. And now I see the same thing happening here. And what we're doing, or proposing to do perhaps, is to continue what we've done in the past, which doesn't really work very well, rather than maybe looking ahead and seeing where we need to go with respect to 30% of the people getting to work some other way than driving a solo vehicle. Just a comment.
And just in specific response to that, that's why the parking hours, we did take that into consideration. And if you look in the municipal code, the common parking restriction is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. But in specific response to the residents that live across the street, we decided to change those hours to 10 a.m., 4 p.m. to make it a little bit easier so that they could utilize the spaces like Lindy mentioned during off-business hours.
We've had plenty of parking fights here too. So, particularly when you get into red zones and stuff like that, when you start making them non-parking in apartment building areas, it gets pretty ugly, pretty full house. So, but with that said, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the City Council to establish a 2-hour parking time limit on both sides of Arbuckle between Madison Street and Jefferson Street along that 160-foot portion from, and that would be 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Just on the south side, I think.
Just on the south side, correct. Just during that, on that 160-foot portion too, it doesn't go all the way over to Madison, right?
Correct.
Just on the 160-foot portion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Can we vote? Please note that it passes with 5 yes and 1 no. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, and